Welcome back, everyone. I'm T.
And I'm Nessa.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. We are coming to you again with our continued coverage of HBO's House of the Dragon. Welcome to the penultimate episode, ladies and gents. After this one, there's only one more, and I can't believe it's almost over. I need so much more right now. It's not even over yet, and I'm already sad that it's about to be over.
Same.
Speaking of more, Nessa, question for you. Is a striptease fair payment for getting your daddy's job back and a couple of
secrets? You know what? People are doing a lot out here with their feet. They're making a lot of money. Them OnlyFans is popping out here in these streets. So it might be worth it, At least she didn't have to touch them, so I guess.
I mean, the silver linings, I appreciate that.
Are you out here wiggling your toes for secrets and schemes?
Lots of schemes. Oh my goodness. You know what? You want to look at my toes and then kill some people for me? Who am I to not know a good deal when I see one? So, it is what it is. Before we dive into the nitty gritty of that, let's do our usual blanket, spoiler-free observations and just thoughts about the episode. So this episode entitled The Green Council. Nessa, what did you think of it?
It was a very tense episode. There was a lot going on. I thought it was a shocking episode. There were some things that played out in a way that I didn't expect them to. Some characters reacted in ways that felt unexpected to me. And so it kept me on the edge of my seat. I'll put it that way. I was on the edge of my seat the whole entire time, screaming at the screen. So I thoroughly enjoyed this episode. What did you feel about it?
It was so suspenseful. The way they shot it, there were so many scenes where we're just looking at the characters being in their own thoughts, waiting for action. There wasn't a whole lot of action, except towards obviously the end, the last scene, and there's a little bit of fighting or whatever, but a lot of people talking, a lot of important people talking in big rooms, contemplating to themselves, contemplating with each other, and just all the suspense that's just built up with the score and the darkness of the episode. It was a really dark episode. It was just, like you said, it had me on the edge of my seat, or I was in bed watching it, pissed that my TV couldn't get brighter. So it was very, very, very suspenseful. But overall, definitely enjoyed it. I like that this, as penultimate episodes go in Game of Thrones history, usually way more action, huge battle scenes happen in these, the ninth episode of the season. And this is I think a welcome turn, a welcome spin to it. So let's get into it. But before we do, Nessa, let's do our spoiler warning.
All right, guys, you know what time it is. This is our blanket spoiler warning for the entire season up till episode 9 of House of the Dragon. All of the Game of Thrones episodes, as well as the books. We have not read Fire and Blood, but that don't mean we don't know things through the interwebs and the multiverse. So everything is basically up for fair game. Obviously, we're not going to spoil things in terms of who ends up on the crown and that kind of, we're not jumping forward and spoiling things. But if it has happened in any of those properties up to this point in time, it is up for fair game. So you guys are more than welcome to stick with us. But if you have not seen the episode and would like to go back and watch it, come and join us. Obviously, that is awesome too. So we are going to move forward. T, kick us off.
I will kick us off and also add that we speculate freely on this podcast. So we don't know what's going to happen in the future. But if we say something that actually happens, that's just us being smart. And it happens on this podcast. We've done it a couple of times in this episode. In this series with House of the Dragons, and in some other stuff too. See our Rings of Power episodes for that. Very proud of some of the stuff that we correctly predicted around those episodes. In any event, we're talking about House of the Dragon. So, House of the Dragon season 1, episode 9, entitled The Green Council. So, first thing we see, Alicent is the first to be notified of the death of King Viserys the Peaceful, and she immediately goes to her papa Otto to tell him she heard Viserys' wish to have her son Aegon be king. Otto and Alicent immediately try to get a handle on the situation by not letting the news spread far and wide just yet, but it looks like Talia, remember Alicent's lady in waiting, has her own means of making announcements, and we'll talk about that in a second. Otto and Alicent call an emergency council meeting where we learn the majority of the council have been planning to install Aegon anyway and have just been waiting for Viserys to die. Lord Lyman Beesbury and the Lord Commander of the Kingsguard are not having it. Part of this plot includes forcing Rhaenyra and Daemon to swear fealty to the new king, and if not, it's lights out. Alicent is not comfortable with this at all. So let's pause there and chat a little bit. So the first thing, we notice about this episode is that Alicent is back in her room. Assuming we are picking up a couple of hours after we last saw Viserys in the previous episode. A small child, looks like, runs over to Talia in the kitchens and tells Talia. Talia goes and tells Alicent. She's like, Talia, stay here. Help me get dressed. Do not tell anyone. And what do we see Talia doing instead? Do you remember?
Lighting candles in an interesting pattern, which does not seem like how one would normally just light candles.
That, and it felt like it was in a very prominent place, a very big window. All the lights are out around it. It looked like a beacon. And is there anything we know about fantasy stories, that beacons are very, very popular, right? Mm-hmm. Speaking to Nessa's Lord of the Rings obsession. Passion. You're passionate about it. And I support it. In any event, she was obviously sending a signal to someone around that the thing that they've been waiting for to happen is happening. So other people outside of the castle now know. Outside of that, Otto and Alicent, Otto kicks into it's go time mode. So they call the council together, and basically when they make the announcement, the council's just like, all right, cool. So I got the goal ready. You got this ready. And Alicent's like, wait a minute. Y'all been planning this? And they're like, yeah. This is how you plan a coup of Westeros. You kill the people loyal to the...
I'm so annoyed.
Why?
Because I felt like on one hand, she had a right to be somewhat surprised, but she should not have been shocked. If that makes sense. It's one thing to be like, oh, dang, okay, y'all was on this. But then she should have been like, all right, well, that's my dad. But she seemed genuinely shocked that this was all going on and just could not wrap her little brain around how everybody was just swiftly going along with this, because even me in the moment, I was just like, oh, wow, nobody's protesting a little bit more. And then I was like, oh yeah, but it's Otto. Of course he's been working on this whole time. And so it's we keep getting these peeks into behind the curtain that, okay, Alicent really isn't out here trying to be malicious. Because if she was, she would have been like, oh, all right, we all good. Oh, okay, let's move on. But she does have some sort of guilt. She does have a heart. She cares, but it was just annoying to me that she really thought that her dad couldn't pull something off like this.
I agree. I think there's a lot of, I hate to keep using the word hypocrisy with Alicent, but just a lot of ironic things about her, because he's been telling you to prepare for this for 20 years. And in just a couple of episodes ago, you were telling Aegon, hey, get ready, Rhaenyra's going to try to kill you. Why has she not been thinking about what's going to happen when Viserys dies?
I don't know. It's she's not putting two and two together.
Exactly. Right. She's not doing the math right. And I mean, everybody else around her did it. They had the plan set. They said, all right, how do we do the coup? We have to kill everybody loyal to Daemon. We got to make sure we got the money all set. Let's send ravens to our allies. Let's just go ahead and send mercenaries over to kill Rhaenyra and Daemon. Just get that out the way. And then, Lord Beesbury and the Lord of the commander of the Kingsguard is just like, no, this is not right. Don't want to do this. And so it definitely shows us some dissension happening within the Greens.
I think, but Beesbury's always been that guy who's been like on the side of what's right. He's like, right is right, you know, and he's been that guy. And so has Sir Harold. He the commander of the King's Guard. He's been that guy too. And we have to remember that Sir Harold was charged with watching Princess Rhaenyra. So
Mm-hmm.
he has been with her since she's been young. Since episode 1, we've seen him in the picture, concerned about her, looking over her, worried about her.
That's a
So
great
to
point.
see that now all of a sudden these people are like, we're going to usurp the throne and we're going to kill Rhaenyra and her children. He's like, nah, I can't rock with this. And like, he was so elegant about it. Like he just took the cloak off, folded it nicely. I resign. I was like,
I mean,
I want
he didn't even say it that way. He was like, look, technically I only got to listen to the king and ain't no king here, so I'm gonna just back on out.
fair. Um, and I'm actually maybe we'll find out in the next episode, but I don't know. But like, I'm surprised they let him live for
Mm.
doing that. Or did they? Or maybe they locked him up. I don't think we really see. I've only watched episode 1, so I don't know if we really see what happens to Sir Harold after that.
That's a good
But
point.
I'm curious to know what they're gonna do with him to have the
I mean,
king.
they let him walk out the room, which is like once you
Yeah,
let them walk out the room, that's it. He can do whatever he wants.
because Otto was like, nobody's leaving here until we figure this out. So I don't know. It'd be interesting to see what they do with him.
I mean, the thing about that too, Otto saying nobody's leaving here, no one was going to try to stop Harold. The only person who would be able to would be Kristen, and I don't think Kristen wanted to smoke like for real over that. Like
And
potentially,
Allison was like,
but,
stand down, and he stood
right,
down,
right.
which was
Um,
interesting to watch too, because your commander is like, stand down, son, and he's like, mm-mm. But as soon as Allison is like, I'm good, that's when he backs out. So I think that's what really also made Sir Harold be like, oh, I see what's going on here. I want no
mm-hmm,
part. I'm out.
mm-hmm. I'm out. Question before we move on to Kristen and how he just doesn't know his own strength, I think. But in any event, um, Otto is just like, we're gonna tell Rhaenyra and Daemon to bend the knee, and if not, then we're gonna kill them. Fine. The question I had was, did they mean Bela and Rhaena too?
I don't think so. I don't
But
think they
how do
mean.
you go over there and to commit mass murder and not think that Bela and Rhaena might get caught up in that?
And maybe that's part of like Allison's reservations as well. Who knows? That might be the. She only states that she's like, well, Viserys wouldn't want that for his daughter and stuff. But I
Obviously,
think Allison is thinking about the collateral damage as well. But
potentially,
I think all in all, I mean, Bella and Rhaena absolutely can get caught up in everything, but I don't think their targets are
right?
Bella and Rhaena, because at the end of the day, they're not um, in line for the throne in any kind of way. So I don't think they're a target, but as we can see, as we've always seen, you know, sometimes it's the innocent whose blood is spilled first. So
Not only that, but they are potential Daemon and Rhaenyra loyalists,
mm-hmm.
right? Like if you know if you leave Baylor and Rhaena alive and you just killed their father and like the family they've known for the past couple of
Yeah.
years, now you have even more enemies than you had. Well, I guess we have the same amount of enemies, but you're not getting rid of all your enemies, I guess, so to
Yeah,
speak.
so you might be right. So maybe they're like, just take out everybody,
That
whoever's
would
over
be
there.
wild because you got Rhaenys. Okay, we'll talk about Rhaenys in a second. So Kristen once again accidentally on purpose kills someone. Do we think it was an accident, or do you think we meant for him to like kill him?
I think it was an accident because he was like, sit down, and I don't think he, I don't think he literally meant to kill him. But Beastberry's an old man, like, and I think he just went down harder than he thought. But it made me think back to. So I heard when the actor who portrays Kristen did an interview, and in the interview, he was like how when he was talking with the showrunners, they were describing Kristen to be like a thug. And at the
Mm,
time, we had only been like maybe 3 episodes in, and I was like, what do you mean thug? Like, what are we talking about here? And then we see him kill Joffrey, and then to see him in action here, and just all the things that he's been doing behind the scenes for Alicent. And I was like, oh, this is what you were talking about. This is the thuggishness, Westerosi thuggishness coming out, right? And that's when I was like, yeah, and that's when I was just like, okay, now I see what you were talking about. He's an asshole. He really is. And shout out to Beesbury for going out like a G. He stood up for what he believed in and died for it. Also, yes, sips to Beesbury. But also it's like, do y'all not think that his family or his house is going to come back for him? Or maybe they're just going to lie about what happened.
Dude, in order to like stage Laenor's death, and ain't nobody say nothing about that neither.
True. They could just lie about it. But do you think Kristen did it on purpose?
No, I don't think he did it on purpose. I think it was an accident. I think little Tink Tink don't know his own strength. I think there's a little bit of that in him. He could be, I don't know. He could just, I don't know. But what I will say though about you mentioning the interview with the actor and them saying that he's a thug, you and I understand thug to mean something else, clearly. Yeah. Because when you said it, I was like, he's not a thug. And then when you explained it, I was like, oh, he's not a thug. He's a goon. Now, if they would have said, yo, Kristen's a goon, I'd be like, what?
You know, that reminds me of, I know you never, is it Harley Quinn's show? It's either a Harley Quinn animated show. I think it is Harley Quinn animation. They had a whole discussion about what it means to be a goon and what it means to be a henchman. And that's what it's making me think. It's like, what's the difference between a goon and a henchman? So what's the difference between a thug and a goon? That's what it got me thinking. Yeah, I get what you mean. Yeah.
Well, to me, a thug is someone who, in the sense of, let's say, a fantasy world and kind of in real life too, a thug is someone who's going to go out of their way to make their own decisions, to just like be violent, be super aggressive, like someone who's not afraid to get their hands dirty. But they kind of, there's a piece of it, there's like agency there where they're doing it of their own accord. A goon only jumps when somebody else tells them to do it, and they're always down for the get down, basically.
Yeah.
And so Kristen is not making these choices himself. He's just doing he's like Alicent's lackey, basically, and just willing to do whatever needs to get done, as violent as he may need to do it. So he's a goon. That makes sense.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a better description.
Yeah. But yeah, accidentally kill somebody else. And then the other thing about this scene, this council scene I wanted to call out was the Lannister dude, what's his name, Tylan. Did you see when the swords came out, how he just kind of like scooted to the side?
He did. And then when everybody went to sit down, when they was like, we should remove Beesbury. And Otto's like, no, let's continue. You see him scoot back over to it. I was crying. I was like,
scooting, because Cersei did the same thing when Clegane Bone was about to go down.
Said, let me get across this wall real quick. This is not my fight. This is not my battle.
Yo, Lannisters, they like twins, and this is A and B. Y'all go over there. I'm gonna see my way out. Anyways,
yes.
Back to the show. Otto brings all the lords in King's Landing to swear loyalty to Aegon, and straight up kills those who won't. Like, just, you do it or you die. Yep. Alicent visits Rhaenys, who they locked in her room, to ask for her support of the Greens. Specifically, they need her dragon Meleys on their side to help quell any potential retaliation from Rhaenyra and Daemon. They have a candid conversation about how the men in their lives are playing the Game of Thrones. While Alicent insists that they can guide them, Rhaenys calls her bluff that she's not even interested in any actual change. She's just content being used as a pawn. And specifically, we get that from Rhaenys's quote about how Alicent just wants a window in the wall of her prison from which to look out of. I thought that was like a great quote to really show how Rhaenys is looking at all this. And then another thing about that scene too was like, this is the first time I feel like we're seeing Alicent's opinion of what her role is in all of this.
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, what's funny is I think she believes that she is like this conduit for change.
Mm-hmm.
And Rhaenys is like, girl, you just playing the man's game. Stop it. Like, it's not even like that. But I think Allison really truly believes like, I could change all of this and I can make this happen.
Change
And
him.
yeah, and Rhaenys is like, oh, silly, silly girl. You're so smart, but still yet so stupid. Like, this could all be yours right now. If you just
Mm-hmm.
sit on the throne, it could all be yours. And Allison is so entrapped in the patriarchy and in the institution that she doesn't even realize that like her moves are upholding it versus actually trying to make a real change.
Mm-hmm.
What did you make of the whole conversation that they had?
I thought it was deep. I thought it was pretty obvious from the time that she walked in that she wanted the dragon, really. She wasn't really interested in anything else. But I also thought it showed that Allison is really thinking about incentives across the board. Who wants what? Who has what I need, and how can I give them what they need in order to get what I want? So she immediately was just like, Driftmark is yours. Your granddaughters can have it. If that's what you want, you can
Mm-hmm.
have that. All I need is your dragon. And not even necessarily, I mean, she didn't say it to this extent, but she could have also just said, just stay out of the fight. That also would have been like, don't tell nobody. You don't have to like formally declare with us, but definitely don't fight with them and you're good. Because really it's just getting her dragon off the board, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I thought it was interesting to finally see Alicent like start being a political player and playing the Game of Thrones. But what I also thought too was that Alicent made a mistake. I think she literally pushed Rhaenys to the other side by doing this. What are your thoughts on that?
By locking her in.
By
By
locking
doing
her in, she literally locked her up and then was basically like, I'm not letting you out until you tell me what you're going to do. But obviously, like, what choice does Rhaenys actually have? If she
mm-hmm.
says, no, I'm not going to fight with you, do we think that they're going to let her out? No.
I mean, but what other choice does Allison have but to lock her up? Because like, if you're staging a coup, the king just died. Rhaenyra is off on Dragonstone. So what you're concerned about right now is contain, contain, contain. Contain the situation, right? So nobody in, nobody out. I need everybody who already is here to pledge their fealty. And Rhaenys, guess what? You gotta make a choice. So I don't think she really had much of a choice because it's like, if she had just let her go, I think Rhaenys would have just straight up went to Rhaenyra anyways. Um, but so I think she made the play that made the most sense. Did it work out for her? Meh.
I
But
guess that's the point I'm making, that like she had to know that that play wasn't going to work with how proud Rhaenys is. I mean, look what Rhaenys did in the previous episode when everyone thought she was going to go to the green side and she was like, nah, the blacks.
I mean,
Wow.
it could have. I think if Allison had made, because like even Rhaenys seems like she's still kind of on the borderline when she's like, it could have been you. So even if Allison
Mm-hmm.
maybe had been like, it's gonna be me, right? And it was like, and you get to have Driftmark, I think Rhaenys might have went with it. But she's like,
Potentially.
Aegon.
Yeah.
No, nobody wants to see Aegon on that
And that's,
throne.
and that's the other thing too. Again, with Alicent and her hypocrisy, she said to Rhaenys, that throne should have been yours by birthright and by temperament. And you are stealing Rhaenyra's birthright and putting your ill-tempered son on the throne? What kind of hypocrisy is that?
She's wild. She's wild for that.
Delusional. She's
Dare you
delusional.
say those words? Maybe that's the reason. That's the moment Rhaenys probably
Maybe
turned against her because she was like, "You be
you stupid.
lying. How you gonna say this to me? And you're
Is you
stealing the throne from another woman? Like that's crazy. The same woman that just an episode ago you said you'd make a great queen.
And just an episode ago, literally the day before or 2 days before, in timeline wise, we don't talk time. You
Mm-hmm.
said that little MFer wasn't a son of yours because he's running around raping people. But
Wow.
now it's we got to put him on the throne because Viserys said it last minute after 20 years of never saying it. Come on. Come on.
My thing about that too was like, no one throughout the episode was like, what were the exact words? Nobody asked that. Everybody's just like, this woman is coming and saying, hey, after 20 plus years on this man's deathbed, he said that my son should be on the throne, not the daughter that he's been uplifting for the past 20 years. No one else was around to hear it, and he just dies.
That's what
Right?
Lord Kingsbury said.
Yeah. And then nobody was like, okay, but what did he say? What were the words?
They didn't care because they wanted
Nobody,
Aegon to be on the throne.
yeah, everybody was already plotting and planning for it anyway, so no one was like, I'd like to know what was said.
It would be interesting though, honestly, if Rhaenys, because at that point Rhaenys was just like, "Oh, you're usurping the throne." Alicent has plenty of reason to do it without even needing like Viserys told me to do this. So Rhaenys wasn't even like, "Well, why are you doing this?" Because it's obvious why she's doing it. It's her son.
Otto. She know Otto.
Exactly. So it would have been really interesting to know if Alicent would have told Rhaenys, "Look, I'm doing this because your cousin told me on his deathbed that Aegon should be king." And I feel like Rhaenys might have been like, "Are you sure that's what he said? What did he say? Say it again."
Because I would have been curious to see like how Alicent would have spit that back. Because what she would say, he said some Aegon, some prince that was promised, some it's you, and people would have been like, "Ma'am, that don't even."
I'm also curious if Rhaenys may know a little bit about the dagger and the prophecy. She was kind of sort of next in line for a minute, so who knows what could have been passed to her. I don't know. But it would be interesting that if she did have like a little bit of like at least knowing what the prince that was promised was, right?
I don't think so, because I think it would have came up. I think it would have came up at some point.
So here's the thing that I want the show to distinguish between. So like the prince that was promised is a prophecy that just exists. It has nothing to do with the Targaryens. Because if we think back to Game of Thrones, it was something that even the Red Woman was talking about for forever, right? It's just a prophecy that is like a prophecy of old, so to speak.
Yeah.
Which confused me when Viserys said it. And I was like, you're confusing two different prophecies here. Which is what Rhaegar wound up doing as well, right? He blended those two prophecies as well. So like I was like fine with it. But in any event, I say that to say that I feel like there are people around who would be familiar with the prince that was promised prophecy, not really connecting it with this whole like a Targaryen needs to be on the throne in order to fight the White Walkers thing. Anyway, I digress. And I would just wrap up by saying like this is to me obvious when Rhaenys made her choice was at the end of this scene.
Yeah.
Meanwhile, while everyone's fighting over whether Aegon should be on the throne, no one can even find Aegon. Alicent asks Helena, and he's nowhere to be found. Otto sends Sir Eric with an E and his twin Eric with an A to find him and bring him only to Otto. At the same time, Alicent sends Kristen and Aemond, Aegon's little brother, to find Aegon and only bring him to her. After the two parties make their way through Flea Bottom, we learn a couple of things. One, Aegon used to be into frequenting the pleasure houses. That's not so weird. Most of the guys do it in King's Landing. But now he takes pleasure in supporting barbaric child fights, like Hunger Games style, and has a couple of bastards running around. In the fighting pits, by the way. Like, that little boy was, like, in the back looking very much like Aegon. Like, they was about to train him up to start fighting. I was like, what is happening here? Kristen and Aemond stumble on White Worm and Otto making a deal to return Aegon. When he's found hiding under an altar in the Sept of Baelor, when Aegon is found under an altar in the Sept of Baelor, Kristen fights Eric with an A to take Aegon back to Alicent while Aemond stops Aegon from fleeing. There are a lot of A's floating around here. Oh, yeah. Let's pause there. So really quickly, the scene between Alicent and Helena, we get another Helena prophecy, right? And then very succinctly, like Helena like rebuffs her mother. Did you catch that?
Yeah, she like pushes her off because Alicent's always trying to like hush her, like, oh, you're just speaking nonsense. And Helena's like, I know what the F I'm talking about. Like, get up off
Mm-hmm.
me. That's
Mm-hmm.
that was my read on it. Like, you keep babying me like I don't know what the hell I'm talking about. It's like, I know things, okay?
Yeah.
I don't drink,
Well,
but I know things.
she might drink. You never know.
It's good.
When that scene starts, it starts with Helena talking. She's like, "It is our faith to crave always what is given to another. If one possesses a thing, the other will take it away." And she's kind of like saying it out loud, but also saying it to like the servant that's tending the children.
Mm-hmm.
That servant looked like a black woman to me, and she was like, "I heard you, princess. I see you." Like she caught it.
Because we be knowing. We be knowing. We be knowing.
She was like, "You hear me?" And she's like, "I don't hear you." Okay.
I bet you if Corliss was around when Helena said one of her things, he'd be like, that sounds like something.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna take a mental note.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I felt like it's slight prophecy, but it's also like just commentary on Westeros as a whole, right?
Yeah.
So it's like if somebody got more than you, you want it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And as we move forward, we see that with between even Aemon and Aegon, right? I think we had this conversation off camera. I don't think we had it on camera, but I was like, Aemon don't want the throne. He just want to cause chaos like Daemon. And this episode sure proved me wrong. But so you know.
But even that, how much of that is just Aemon being like, this dude can't do it, I'm the best one around, versus like, I need to do it?
I think Aemon strongly believes in his capabilities and wants to be the one.
That's fair. I think that if there was someone else capable, he'd be fine with that person doing it. There aren't really a lot of options right now at all, to be honest.
I'll put it this way. It's like if it just quietly went to Rhaenyra without conflict, he'd be fine. He might think it in his mind, but I think he'd be fine. But if he's like, hey, if we coming down this route, hold up now. I want to put my bid in, which is actually interesting because he likes to put it as I would be next in line. And it's like, no. Aegon's son would be next in line. Jaehaerys would be next in line. So, but yeah.
That is interesting because that was my first thought too. But if it never goes to Aegon, then it never goes to Aegon's son.
So here's the thing, right? If you're talking about succession, first of all, Aegon ain't supposed to be the one. It's supposed to be Rhaenyra, right? But if we're going to skip that and go with the son, it should be Aegon. Now, if Aegon dies or is never found or whatever, because if he's never found, they're just going to presume him to be dead or whatever.
Right.
It's supposed to go down to his son. It's not supposed to go to the second kid. So that, because that was the whole thing with Maegor and Aenys, right?
And,
so Aenys
and Aegon, yeah.
Right. Aenys was supposed to be king, and then Maegor.
No. Aenys died, and his son Aegon was supposed to be king, and Maegor supplanted Aegon. It was like Aegon the never.
Yeah, that's
crowned.
what I'm saying. Yeah, so Aenys was.
Oh, I heard you say
king.
Aenys. Sorry.
No, but Aenys was king, and it's supposed to go down to his son, but his brother Maegor is the one who comes through and usurps the throne. So that's not the line of succession. So him being like, I'm supposed to be next is very incorrect, Aemon. So I
thought about that, and the way that I read it was like, maybe he was thinking that they would never even announce that it was going to be Aegon to begin with. They would just say, we're even skipping Aegon, we're just going to go straight to Aemon. Because if they did that, then there's no Aegon and Aegon's son.
It would still be skipping the traditional line of succession, though. So it'd still be a weird thing to do, regardless. Because now you're skipping over the firstborn daughter who was declared to be heir, and then you're skipping over the firstborn son without as much of a explanation to go to the second.
Yeah,
it would still be a weird thing to do.
Well, they already skipped the first one, so.
But that's because she's a woman, so.
Yeah, that's a good point.
They're like, we don't care.
I feel like There is an example of this. The only one that's coming to mind is Aemon and Aegon. Maester Aemon, who we meet in Game of Thrones, but he abdicated kind of and actually
Yeah,
and kids, and that's
yeah,
why
that's because he was like, I don't want to be
I
king. I
don't
will
want it.
go to the wall. That's
Yeah,
where it makes.
why would Aemon say that then? Like, I don't understand. I'm like trying to make it make sense, is what's happening right now.
Why would Eamon say that he's next in line?
Yeah.
I think it's his ambition talking.
Okay.
Ambition that I didn't realize he had. Because, like I just thought he just wanted to stir some stuff up. But, like, I think he truly, if
Thanks.
given the opportunity, wants to rule.
Mm. Mm.
So,
Yeah. What
yeah.
makes him different than Damon? A lot of people have
Hmm.
been drawing a lot of parallels between Aemon and Damon in a lot of different ways. This is the thing that sets them apart. Damon just wants to support and see his family rule.
Yeah, Damon.
Aemon clearly wants the crown for himself.
Yeah, Damon don't want to rule. Damon don't want them problems. He just
He
want to
does.
sit in the library and just chill, like, and collect dragon eggs. That's all he's trying
The
to
dragons. Yeah.
do.
Another quote that I liked from these set of scenes was when Alicent and Otto were kind of going back and forth, which I don't think we got to yet. But okay, so I'll save it. I'll save it for later.
Mhm.
The other thing too, with we realize with these two different factions running around the city looking for Aegon is like the twins are divided, right?
Yeah,
So we have two people, obviously same upbringing, slightly different experiences with who they've been charged with protecting. And Eric is like, I want nothing to do with this boy. Like, we have a chance here to just like save the realm by not finding this dude. What are we doing? And I just thought that was like really, really interesting to see.
yeah. The twin who is in charge with Aegon, he gets to see Aegon for who he really is, right? He knows all his ins and outs. He knows what he's really about. He knows what he's capable of. And he's like, this guy should not be king at all. To, the point of dividing his own home and going against his twin. So I thought that was interesting to let play out. And so I was like, I'm here for this little story. I mean, y'all could have introduced them way earlier so that we could actually be able to tell them apart. But
Yeah.
whatever. Sure.
This is definitely one of those times where I was watching the show and I was like, Nessa was right. We need more time in between the time jumps. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because we would have just learned about these people and just been way more invested in this episode. A lot of plot is being driven by people we have no real connection to. The
Yeah.
twins, White Worm, some of these other like lords and ladies who make decisions, like even Lord Beesbury. Like, we should have spend more time with him. Speaking of White Worm, I thought it was really profound that she was like, what she wants is like more than money. It's like, we need to stop these children from fighting each other to death. And the crown can do that. Why are you guys not helping? Um, I thought that was very Varys-esque of her.
First, I want to say I hate this accent word.
Yeah,
God, please.
bad.
It was honestly like
It was like she was trying to be
it felt like
Shay.
it felt like she was trying to be French. And like it just wasn't pulling off the way it should have. And I was just like,
Really bad.
okay, you didn't take the notes of
She
let's
sounded
work
like
on
she
this
sounded like
accent.
she was trying to be like Shay
But
from.
I bring that up to just say like it took me out of the episode. That whole scene took me out. I never wanted a scene to go by more quickly than her having all these lines and talking so damn much. I was like, please make her stop. Please, Otto, give her what she wants because I'm done. I'm so tired. But outside of that, if you want to talk about women trying to break the wheel, women trying to actually
Mm,
make real change, here's a
mm.
woman who's trying to do that. Y'all can do whatever you want. You can have Aegon. Take your king. But what's going on with these children down here, I need y'all to get up on it. Because y'all letting these gold cloaks run around here and allowing these things to happen to these poor innocent kids. I need you to do something. So I give her props for that. The accent work is terrible, but she got good.
Terrible. So awful. So bad. And I mean, the thing too, she could have killed that dude or put him on a ship, which I think is what Aegon wanted, right?
Man, Otto is
Um,
not about to honor anything that he said to her at all. He's like,
Listen,
I'm
it
sure.
was very obvious from, I mean, I know it took you out of the scene, so maybe you didn't catch this, but she made a comment about power. And I don't remember, I'm bad. I'm a bad
She was
outliner. I
like, the
should have.
people hold the power, and we give you as much power as we allow, or something like that. And I was
Something
like,
along those lines. And
yeah,
he agreed with it. The way he agreed, I was like, oh, he about to kill her. That felt
that's what
obvious to me.
that's what I'm saying. Like, I don't think he's gonna give her anything she wants. I don't know if he's gonna kill. Well, he's gonna try to take her down, I think, in some sort of way.
She's already dead. She's dead, Nessa. No, I'm being
Is
serious.
she?
She died. Yeah. So
We didn't
here's,
see it on screen.
listen, we saw the fire.
If it didn't happen on screen, I don't know if it happened.
Okay. I want to talk. Definitely want to talk about that. So let's go through these next couple of scenes and then
Yes, go.
because we'll talk about it with Laris specifically. So
Yeah.
Kristen and Aemon bring Aegon back to the Queen. Alicent finally puts her foot down, with Otto and says they're playing this her way. Like she's like,
Yeah.
we're gonna do it my way. Her way is sending terms to Rhaenyra as her husband would have wanted, naming Kristen as Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. This dude just keeps failing upward. Promotion. And anointing Aegon in front of all of King's Landing the next day. Later, Laris tells Alicent that her father has been using a network of spies to keep tabs on everyone, including her, with her lady-in-waiting Talia being one of them. He offers to take out White Worm for her, and Alicent agrees. The scene finishes with Laris finishing by pleasuring himself to the sight of Alicent's feet.
Yikes.
So, when Alicent and Otto are kind of going back and forth, and she puts her foot down, pun intended. She has this quote where she's like, "Reluctance for murder is not a weakness," and I just thought that was a very profound thing to say in a series where people are dying every other scene.
Mm-hmm.
Like, we have been so conditioned in this show to expect everyone on our screen to be willing to kill anyone for anything that they want.
Yeah.
To have a character so succinctly say, hey, I know this is what everyone is used to, but actually this is wrong, was like a wake-up call for me. I was like, oh yeah, we're not supposed to be wanting to kill people.
But also a few scenes later, she's like, yeah, Laris, go do the thing. So, I mean...
Such a hypocrite.
But what I will say, though, is that I enjoyed seeing Alicent and Otto go back and forth as much as they
yeah. 20 years worth of conversation that was.
And it was also surprising to me that we did see this divide, especially when like Aegon is missing and Otto's like, hey, go get him and bring him to me. And Alicent's like, go get him and bring him to me. And at first I was like, why y'all doing this? Yeah, like, aren't y'all on the same side? Like, I couldn't understand. But because they do have like these different philosophies where like Alicent's like, obviously Alicent wants to they each want to get their hands on Aegon first so that they could be the one to influence him. Whoever has the king rules the kingdom, right?
Like Cersei and Marjorie.
Right.
With Tommen.
Right. So they can have that influence over him. So it was interesting to see Alicent finally kind of standing up to her dad and being like, you've been using me all these years. Like, let's not pretend. And then Otto's like, well, if I've been using you, I made you queen, right? And she's kind of like, at what cost, though? Mm-hmm. Like, I'm your daughter. You know what I'm saying? So it was interesting to finally see them hash out these conversations. And I'm glad that these conversations were had. Because, like, even though they are on the same team, they obviously have different ways of going about things.
And what just occurred to me as you were talking was that Alicent can see that you don't have to treat a daughter that way because she saw how Viserys treated Rhaenyra. He loved that girl.
Yeah.
He loved, and while, like, you could argue that some of it was like him using her as a pawn per se. I wouldn't say that. Like, she had a duty to do as a princess and as queen, you know, as future queen and heir, and he was just trying to get her to do those things, where Otto was like straight up pimping out his daughter in order to get like more political power.
Mm-hmm.
Allison can see that like there are men out there who will treat their daughters better and actually support them in making their own decisions and stuff. And so I think that this was a conversation 20 years in the making. And I think that Otto is really freaking weird and creepy because he ended that with, in certain lights, you look like your mother. What the hell did that mean?
I think he's just always trying to look for a way to almost like knock her down a couple notches. Because here she is having this moment standing up to him, right? And all he has to say is, you kind of look like your mom. And then it's when she walks out, that's when he's like, yes, my queen, or something like that, right? So it was just like, he's also just a weirdo. Because when Helena in the previous episode does her whole toast and was like, your husband's going to ignore you, except when he's drunk sometimes. Otto's like, good. I was like, what? I was like, what's wrong with you? So like,
and I'm not gonna lie, that whole like you look like your mother in a certain light, I was triggered. I get called that a lot. Like my dad says that to me a lot, not in the creepy way that like
yeah,
Otto says it to thing, but like I'll say something or I'll like roll my neck or something, and he'd be like, "You look like your mother." Stop. Like, really, what he's saying is I have my mother's attitude and I'm annoying him.
mm-hmm.
And me being who I am, I play it up. I'm like, good. At least one of us does. Like, you know, like I play it up. But so when he said it, I was like, oh, I know what that's like to have a parent be like, oh, you look like your
Yeah.
mother. But it didn't look like Otto was doing it that way. It looked like he was trying to manipulate her in a way. And I think you're right, trying to like
Mm-hmm.
knock her down a peg in some way. Speaking of people being weird, Laris, that dude needs help. Okay. He, we find out, is into feet and setting people on fire. Like, for real. Like, those are his things. That's what he's
Those are
good
his
at.
kinks.
And fire. So we see that while they're having this conversation, Allison is like, she takes off her shoes and then she like props her feet up on the table with her stockings on. And I was like, that's weird for you to do as a queen in front of someone that's like not your immediate family or whatever. But you know, whatever, you're resting, you're comfortable with him, fine. And then she takes off her stockings and puts her feet up again. Why are you showing him your little piggies?
So at first, because like we've seen her take off her shoes around him before.
I didn't get that until like I was thinking about it, and yeah, you're right.
So at first, I thought it was just a symbol of like, I'm taking off my shoes to show like you're not talking to Queen Allison, but you're talking to Allison. I thought that's what it was at first. So as they're talking and like he kind of hesitates to give information, but she takes off her shoes, I was like, oh, this is the signal that like we're talking as equals right now. But then when the stockings came off and she popped them toes up, I was like, wait, and then she was like hiking up her skirt a little bit. I was like, hold on. This is not modest of a queen, and especially of this religious woman that you claim to be. I'm like, why are you hiking up your skirt? I was like, girl, you basically naked in front of this man. What you doing?
You're naked with the 7-pointed star on your chest.
And then like, just as I'm watching him stare, I'm like, oh, yeah. I was like, oh, he nasty.
So I sent you and Lawrence a voice note today because
Yes.
I completely misread that scene, and I'm going to tell everyone how I misread that scene.
Yeah.
When I watched it last night, as you all know, my TV is not bright or whatever. I need to figure that out. But anyways, when I watched the scene, I obviously caught her doing all that. And then when it got to the end, when she like, she sits to the side and her feet is out and she kind of like looks away from him. I see him put his hand on his lap and like move. I thought he was just like adjusting himself because he got aroused, right? It wasn't until I was rewatching today on my laptop when I was like, no, he's moving his hand. And then the caption is like, Laris, like deep breathing, like heavy breaths. And I was like, whoa, whoa, she can
Yeah.
hear that. No, if they're putting it on the screen for us to hear, she could hear it. She could hear him breathing, which means she knows what's going
She
on.
knows what's happening.
And I was just like, oh my
The
God.
question is, when did they cross this threshold? How did they get to this place? And you want to sit here and talk about your homegirl, but look at what you're doing out here in these streets.
So this made it very clear to me that Allison understands that sex can get you what you want. She obviously learned that from her father, who's been trying to put on your mother's dress and go to the king. Like that's where she began to learn that. Clearly, she probably feels this is like fairly harmless way to like have some sexual power. I think there's a sexual power thing happening here too, because she had none with Viserys. To my knowledge, she wasn't pulling a Danny and hopping on top. I mean, I probably would have killed him a lot sooner, honestly. Which,
Jesus Christ.
can you imagine? How did he die? On top of me? You remember that film, Color Purple? Anyways, I digress. So I don't know. Like, I still haven't had enough time to process this, if I'm being honest. But like, the fact that she's literally paying this dude by letting him jerk off to her feet. And the one thing, I haven't processed it all, but the one thing I can say is that Game of Thrones is so good at shock. So good at shock value. And not just like, oh snap, a dragon popped out the floor, which we're about to talk about, but just like deep psychological, like effed up things happening. And again, we got it from the first episode of Game of Thrones. We saw two twins sleeping with each other and then kicking a boy out the window.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know. I'm still processing everyone.
Yeah. But once again, it's like another example of her playing into the patriarchy, right? You are effing queen. You could just say, give me the information, right? I'm letting you be Lord of Harrenhal. I'm letting you stay here in court. I'm letting you do all these things. I am the queen. Like, give me the information. Or if not, kick rocks. Like, she really could just do that. She could flex her power in that kind of way, right? But note that she didn't have a problem doing that to Rhaenyra back in the day when, I forgot, they were calling her for something. And then, no. It was, Rhaenyra was listening to the song on repeat under the tree while she was reading. And then they told the singer or whatever, Rhaenyra's like, stay. And then Alicent's like, the queen commands you to go. Mm-hmm. Right? She don't have a problem flexing her power then. But then when it comes to this guy, you're sitting here, and she's clearly uncomfortable.
She's a fake feminist.
Right. It's not that consensual. She's clearly uncomfortable. She doesn't like what she's doing. When you can easily turn around and be like, I am queen. Or at least I am mother to the king. Like, respect me. And she doesn't. So to me, it's just like, what are we doing here, miss? Get it together.
Do you think there's a piece of her that likes it? Likes having this sexual, like, power?
I think, I don't feel like I can call it power because she doesn't look like she's in control.
That's a good point.
Like it's power if it looks like you're in control. It doesn't look that way. I think she enjoys having people lust after her. Yeah. When she sends Kristen to go after Aegon, she's like, all the feelings that you have for me, use that and go find my son. Right? I think she enjoys that part, but there's no power in what she's doing. There's power in Rhaenyra being like, no, I'm not going on a ship with you. Like, yeah, you can be my whore. Like, there's power in that.
That's my side piece. It just occurred to me now that I'm still processing this. Can you imagine if Kristen found out that's what was happening?
I'm waiting for them to figure out that they're not they're sharing that number one spot. But
Allison. One of them is getting. Do you think there's something sexual going on between Kristen and Allison too?
I don't think so.
I don't think so neither. But if Kristen found out that there's clearly something sexual going on between Laris and Allison, he's going to flip his. He's going to flip.
Because when they go to the Road of Silk, Eamon's like, yeah, we're going to go see the whores or whatever, right? And he's like, every woman is a reflection of the mother. We should speak of them in respect. I'm like, bro, you just called Rhaenyra the C word a couple of episodes ago, but sure.
And it was up to C a couple of episodes before that.
Right. So I think he puts Allison on this pedestal. Mm-hmm. And if he was to ever find out that anything like this was going on, it'd be tough cookies.
I want to be the one to tell him.
If only. Just whisper into the screen. He masturbates to her feet.
The other thing I wanted to bring up real quick is that this is how I read the episode, and you could tell me if you picked up something differently. So Laris offers to take out the white worm for Allison. But in a couple of scenes before that, Laris offered to be pretty much like a goon or you know, someone to assist with anything that Otto needs. And so the way I read all this was Otto went to Laris might have noticed that Talia was being, you know, part of the whole secrets and spiders and all that stuff. But I think Otto, I'll say it this way. Laris taking out White Worm helps Otto more than it helps Allison, is how I read it. And so I was thinking that Otto asked Laris to take out White Worm, but Laris wanted it to feel like Allison's idea, so he has something else that she owes him for.
I mean, yeah, I think he's definitely playing both sides, regardless, right? Because Otto is like, you've been spending a lot of time with the queen, and Laris's response is, I don't see why that can't benefit you too. Mm-hmm. So I think he's just putting a flag on both sides, so just in case anything goes wrong on one way or the other, he's going to be safe. And so he's just trying to preserve himself at the end of the day. And so I think, you know, it's like, hey, I can take out the right worm for you, Otto. That benefits you. Guess what, Allison? That benefits you too. He gets a win on either side. Mm-hmm. So I think that's his goal, is just self-preservation, make myself look good to both sides. Whoever rocks with me.
Get my feet, get the feet stuff going at the same time.
I don't think he would like Otto's feet, though. I don't think it would be the same.
That's the thing. He could have a whole room full of feet. If the queen would just be like, oh, you want feet? I could get you feet, but you can't have mine.
No, it has to be hers.
He'd have to die. I'm sorry. He would have to die. I would have to kill him. I'm sorry. Like, no. Anyway.
Yes.
So Eric breaks Rhaenyra out of her room so she can find a ship back to Driftmark. As they're making their way through Flea Bottom to the Blackwater, we see the White Worm's place of business is on fire. Mm-hmm. At daybreak, Eric and Rhaenyra, or maybe Eric, sorry, it's supposed to be Eric with an A, I believe. Yes, Eric with an E.
One of the Cargylls.
And Rhaenyra, right, the one who wasn't down for the get down, right? The one who's like, I ain't having this, right? Him and Rhaenys get scooped up into the massive crowds, all being herded towards the Sept, where the Greens are announcing Aegon as king. While the ceremony is going on, Rhaenys slips away, and right after the crowd cheers their new king, she bursts through the boards, the floorboards is really what I should have said, of the Sept on Meleys, making her way to the front and has Meleys scream at the Greens. She then flies away. Mm-hmm. So that was the last scene of the episode. And the one of the things I wanted to call out was like Aegon's trajectory from literally trying to get on a ship and run away from being king to being on stage and like hyping up the crowd with Blackfire in his hand and the Iron Crown on his head. Like, how do we get there?
So to me, honestly, I was shocked at Aegon's response to becoming king. The fact, like, running away, okay, but, like, the whole fight and interaction that he has with Aemon, and I don't want this, I don't want, like, trying to claw his way out surprised me. Because it was just like, I expected him to be reluctant, but not literally respond in this kind of way. And I think Allison and Otto, I think they worked together on this, but whatever. It was a brilliant idea to say, we are usurping the throne, but you know what? We need to bring all the commoners in here and show that this is what's happening. And this
Mm-hmm.
is your king, and this is who you need to go by. Right? So I think once he gets that taste of of notoriety, of celebrity, he's like, give me more. I need it. I need this. Like, I think it just it built his ego, right? Because in conversations that he has with Allison, even writing up, he's like, do you love me? Dad didn't even want me to be here. And I
Mm-hmm.
think getting that love or that attention from the people built him up so much that he was like, this is the feeling I've been wanting to feel my whole life. And he just leans all the way into it.
Yeah, I mean, when I saw that, I was just like, now he's going to be running around raping everybody and having bastard kids and like having
Yep.
having children fight in the throne room to the death. Like
Pretty
that's
much.
literally what I thought, and I was just like, how can they be okay with this? And I also thought that to your point, when they were on their way to the sept in the carrier or the carriage, you saw something change on his face when Allison showed him the dagger and was like,
Yeah.
here's your father's dagger, like this is yours now.
Yeah.
And it did sound like he needed again the reassurance, like, do you love me? And she's like, you're such an imbecile, which is not answering the question, honestly.
Because I think now that you say that part out loud, I think part of it might have been he truly didn't believe that Viserys believed in him. And
No,
I
but
think,
Cyrus didn't.
yeah, he didn't. But like, Allison's whole story is your dad wanted, his dying breath was that he wanted you to be king. And I think the whole time Aegon is looking at it as like, no, you guys are trying to stage a coup and overthrow these people. And y'all want me to be at the head of this crap, this circus. And you know what I mean? But I think bringing in the dagger, it was like, oh, dad really did say this? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe there's something to this. I think that's what it was. Because I ain't gonna lie, like, that's like your boss rolling up on you and be like, listen, we kicking out the CEO, but I'm gonna need you to be the face of the company. I'm like, oh, hold on, wait a minute. Is this legal? What are we doing here? Like, why do you want me to be at the head of this? Right? Because that puts a target on his
That's
back.
a great point. That happened to me like 3 weeks ago. My case manager was gone for the day for like the Jewish holiday, and something had to be done. And they was like, all right, you're project leader for the day. And I was like,
How does this work?
I was like, I was what? I mean, I did fine. I got like, I does what I do.
Yes.
But I mean, for a day is different than like usurping the throne forever.
Right.
Completely changing the line of succession, right?
Yeah, because he understands this is starting a battle. This is starting a war. And he's going to have to lead this war. Now that I'm saying it out loud, I ain't mad he was trying to run. I would have ran too.
Did you see when Aemon and Aegon were fighting, having their little like brotherly like fight or whatever?
Yeah.
Aegon was like, let me go on a ship, and Aemon stopped and was like, well, if I would have known you wanted to do that, I would have let you go. That's the look he gave him.
He thought about it for a second, yeah, but he was like, man, I can't do that. But he thought about it for a second for sure.
Definitely did. The other thing I wanted to call out about that scene was Helena looking away. Helena doesn't make eye contact with most people in the show, which honestly, I think Helena might just be on the spectrum a little bit. Not stupid or slow or anything like that, just a little socially awkward. But she very distinctly, like, you see her looking away as the crown is going on his head, and I just thought that to be a loaded action. And I thought specifically, like, she's kind of blurred out in the background. I couldn't tell if she was just looking away or if she immediately looked at Aemon. And we know how she is with, like, I look at everything that Helena does. So I don't know. I don't know if anybody else saw that, but that's something that I saw.
Yeah,
and then
not feeling it.
No, she was not feeling it.
Mm.
And then finally we have the beast, Melis, popping up from under the floorboards of the set, killing a bunch of people, by the way.
I was like, wow, this is a lot of collateral damage. I was like the whole time that she was popping up, I was just like, Rhaenys, fly out. Fly out. You're killing the commoners. Like, these are quote unquote innocent people. Like, get out of here. Like, what are we doing? And she just kept turning around. Like, Melis is just crushing people and smacking people with their tail. I was like, bro. I was like,
Yeah,
you're doing a
definitely,
lot of damage. To then
definitely.
pause
Yeah.
and not kill who she needed to kill. And I was just like, so the innocent people get to die, but these usurpers get to live. Cool, 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 cool,
She's
cool.
a Targaryen. She doesn't care, right? She doesn't care about killing commoner people. But I mean, what she did do was slightly push the commoners to the green side, right? If she pops up with the dragon, the commoners will be like, wait, yeah, it's between that and them. Like I'm going with them, who, who was a target of this aggression and everything. Anyway, do you think Rhaenyra should have barbecued the greens?
For Game of Thrones rules, yes. If we're talking about real world morality, I get it.
And I think Rhaenys is supposed to be the one that has the morality ruler for the audience,
So to
if that
speak.
makes sense.
Yeah. Um, and man, she was so close though. It's like a big part of me wishes that she had done, but I think for the sake of herself, she was just like, yeah, I can't do it this way. It's got to be like fair battle or whatever.
Yeah, it's not her fight.
Yeah, and so, and I think also like Allison running in front of Aegon, I think to her it was just like, oh man, it's a mother protecting their son. She just lost both kids. So I think that might have also played a part in it. Whether it was like pity of like, look at Allison, this is shameful. Let me get out of here.
That's
Or
kind of
like,
more what I took it as.
yeah, or I mean, I don't think it has to be mutually exclusive. I think it can be both. I
Mm-hmm.
think it can be pity, but also, dang, I went through this and like I've lost my kids, and maybe this isn't the way to do it as of right now. Anyways,
We lost
I'm gonna
both
see
her
you on
kids.
the battlefield. Yeah, she lost both. Ooh, that's a good point. Both of her kids by fire. So
Mm.
seeing Allison in that way might have, because she couldn't be there to protect her kids.
Mm-mm.
But here's Allison, able to
Protecting
do
her
that.
kids, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting too that Allison jumped in front of Aegon and told Kristen to protect Helena. Um, I guess a mother's love for her kid. I don't know. I don't have children, so I can't sit here and say that I understand what that is. But like, you go for the wrong kid. That was the wrong kid.
I mean, it's like the Cersei thing, right?
Joffrey.
She
Yeah.
loved Joffrey and would have protected Joffrey with everything that she had. So it's one
Mm,
of those things. Even if your kid's a little monster, you can still try and protect them because that's a part of you, I guess.
I guess. Any other thoughts from the episode?
Nah, I think it was a great setup. I've been waiting for this moment a long time. I've been waiting for Viserys to die as awful as that sounds. I've been waiting for Viserys to die for a long time because I knew that it would mean the eruption
This.
of the war and everything that's happening right now. And so
Mm-hmm.
I've been excited to see what's going to go on. I love that they focused on the Greens and they show
Say. I was
you,
just about to say that.
yeah, and they show you what happens when there is a coup happening and when you are trying to take over. These are the steps that you need to take. It is usurping 101. And I love that we got to see a behind the scenes of all of that. And so it was a great Allison episode. We got a lot of Allison. We got to learn a lot of her motivations, where she's at right now. We always talk about like, dang, I wish we got a little bit more in the time jumps, in that in between time. But I think this was a great way to stick with Allison and really discover what she got going on.
Mm-hmm.
Any
Agree.
last thoughts for you?
No, I was actually going to say I like how we just focus on the greens. The blacks aren't even in this episode at all,
Mm-hmm.
right? And we can see that there's still, the main tension is the greens versus the blacks, but even within the greens, and I'm sure we'll see next episode, even within the blacks, there's going to be like tension on how to go about doing
Mm-hmm.
what they think needs to get done.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I just thought it was a brilliant episode, and I really enjoyed just focusing a little bit more on like one set of characters and really fleshing them out like they did in this episode. So
Yeah.
really, really happy to see it. Who do you think won the episode?
I'm going with Otto. Otto has been wanting Aegon to be on the throne for so long, and has
20 years.
yeah, and has clearly been plotting with the small council behind Allison's back to prepare for this moment. The moment has come, and they got what they wanted. And Aegon didn't get burned to a crisp at the end. So even though he doesn't, win the hunt for Aegon, at the end of the day, they got him on the throne. They got the coup. They got a bunch of people to pledge unwillingly, but pledge their fealty to Aegon. So I'm looking at Otto as the winner right now, the MVP.
So I'm going to counter by using the logic you used last week with me when I said Viserys won, and you said he didn't because it's about to all go to hell because in the next episode. So I'm going to say that Otto did not win because he didn't take out Rhaenyra, and now their side has a whole nother dragon, and it's just about to go down. So whether or not he's able to hold on to Aegon being king is another story. I think Kristen won this episode because this dude just keeps failing upwards. He just keeps getting promoted after. So he sleeps with the princess, which is obviously against the rules. He should have died for that. When he tells on himself, Allison doesn't kill him. Then he kills the boyfriend of the future king consort, and then when he's about to kill himself, someone saves him. Then that person freaking promotes him kinda to being her Kingsguard. Then he almost like he thinks about taking out the eye of a prince, and then when that happens, he gets like nothing happens to him after not stopping a different prince's eye from being taken out. He outs like Strong for being the kid's father. Nothing happens to him. In this episode, he kills a really, really old dude with a lot of wisdom and gets promoted to Lord Commander of the Kingsguard. And it's just like this. I kind of want his life, like the way.
It's only the way a white man can travel upward.
Bruh.
It couldn't have been Corlys.
It definitely wasn't Vayman.
Nope. But Sir Kristen is just out here getting promoted time after time. Things that he should have been sent to the wall for or should have died for. He just keeps getting away with and just keeps moving up and up and up. So I'm not mad at your argument at all. I'm not mad at it all.
So looking forward in our last trailer for the season, we see Rhaenys flying straight to Dragonstone to tell Rhaenyra the Greens are coming for her. Rhaenyra is being counseled by men around her to lay siege to the Red Keep. The boys offer to go, but admittedly, some people are like, well, this is going to plunge the realm into war. Is this something we really want to do? We see Sir Eric, with an E, pledging his allegiance to the Queen, so he made his way over to Dragonstone. And we just hear people talking of the power of old Valyria that Rhaenyra has on her side. And essentially what they're talking about, they got some dragons backing them up, like for real. So how are we feeling about going into the season finale of the first season of House of the Dragons?
I mean, I'm curious to see how much, if any, battle that we're going to get, or is it kind of going to be the other side of the coin of this episode, where it's like we got to spend all our time with the Greens and now we're going to spend all our time with the Blacks planning whatever the counter is going to be. We obviously, it's the finale, so we need a big moment to end on. So I don't know if it's going to be kind of like that Dany and Tyrion moment of like sailing towards Westeros with the dragons overhead. So it's like, are they going to end with like Rhaenyra sailing or flying to King's Landing? And then it's like, oh, check us out next season. So I'm curious to see how much they're going to actually give us next episode.
That's a good point. So they have at least 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 dragons, right? Rhaenyra, Daemon, Jace, Luke, Rhaenys.
Mm-hmm.
Joff is probably not old enough to ride a dragon yet if he has one already. Oh, Baela has one too, right?
Baela has one.
I don't know Baela's the name of Baela's dragon, but so they have 6. They have 6 dragons basically,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you're right. I think it's going to end with some sort of show of power on the black side, either making their way over to King's Landing. I would love for it to end with them actually making it to King's Landing and like squaring up, like seeing all the dragons like ready to go or whatever, and like maybe it like ends on the shot like of Alicent like looking out at it. That would be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
But I agree that like I don't know that we're going to see a huge battle. I think it's just going to be like cliffhanger, like come back next season to see how this pops off, so to speak.
Because it's also, I'm curious to know how many seasons they plan to have, which would, I guess, kind of give us an idea of like how long we're going to stretch this out, kind of a thing.
So, spoiler, I kind of know how this ends, kind of. I'm trying to forget, which is why I'm saying kind of. I'm really good at doing that. I'm really good at
Don't
forcing
spoil
myself.
it now. I
No, I'm
want to
not gonna
hear it.
spoil it. No, I'm not gonna spoil it. But what I will say is that, oh, I guess this might be a little bit of spoiler.
So don't say it. We'll leave it. But I'm just curious to know like how far they plan on stretching this out, how many seasons they actually plan on doing, and I guess that would kind of determine how long this fight is going to go, how long this battle is going to go. Or are we just going to have also like filler episodes of quiet moments? And I don't know. So I'm just kind of curious to know what the plan is.
I think the question here is like, do we expect more time jumps or not? Is the question.
That's a good point.
And if so, how long the time jumps are going to be. Hopefully we're at the point where there's no more time jumps and like all the action in order to settle the Dance of the Dragon happens in succession, at least a couple of months apart, and not years apart. But I think they can go another 7 or 8 seasons, honestly.
Jeez, damn. Okay.
I think so. I think they can stretch it out to go another 8 seasons. I really do think so.
We'll see.
Especially if, so it's called House of the Dragon. It's not really called Dance of the Dragons. So if they wanted to take it past Dance of the Dragons, they could, and still have it be interesting. Like if they wanted to catch us all the way up to like the Mad King, they probably could.
But I feel like in all the premise that they've talked about, it's supposed to just focus on this time. So I don't think
I agree, but yeah. I can see the last season potential, like I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. So
we'll see.
We will see. We are going to see. Yeah. And that's it for the episode.
All right, guys. Well, thank you once again for joining us today. We have one more episode left of House of the Dragon. Rings of Power is over. But there are plenty of other stories on their way. So make sure you stay tuned in with this. Lock in. We are at Casual Fangirls _ on Instagram and TikTok. We are also on YouTube at Casual Fangirls. Make sure you like, subscribe, follow, do all of the things. And as always, I am Nessa.
And I'm T.
And together we are the Casual Fangirls. We will see you guys next time.
Bye.